and talk to our brilliant royal commentator, Kinsey Schofield. Hi, Kins.
Hi, Kev. Busy weekend for us on WhatsApp as we exchanged all of the wild stories coming out of Los Angeles about Prince Harry and Meghan Markle.
Absolutely. And I think the big one was, endorsing really everything that you and I have talked about over the past few months, endorsing what the Hollywood Reporter publication said about them. The Hollywood Reporter a few months back said that Meghan Markle was a nightmare employer, a tyrant in high heels who reduced grown men to tears. Of course, Meghan denied this, but guess what? We've now got Vanity Fair, an almost biblical publication, a publication that Americans treat very, very seriously again. Well, they might. It's a very serious publication. It's a serious magazine. All over its new edition, front page, is Harry and Meghan, American hustlers. American hustle. They are dismissed as a pair of hustlers trying to make a few quid, a few bucks in America. And I suppose that the gruesome twosome's disaster tourism to Los Angeles, when for a photo op they appeared in the middle of the wreckage of the LA fires. People have really reacted badly against that, and basically nobody wants to give them the time of day at the moment. We had Justin Bateman has said that they're disaster tourists. Kelly Osbourne led the charge, expressing her disgust over what she said were a couple of grief grifters, tragedy vultures, trying to cash in on the catastrophe, trying to look good, trying to look angelic. Looks as if that might have been the straw that broke the straw that broke the camel's back. Finally, people have had enough of these two, I can't see because of what Vanity Fair is saying about them. Vanity Fair, Kinsey, let's get your comments on this, is saying that Meghan is such a terrible employer that after one worker had to work with her on her podcast series, Archetypes, that worker was so traumatized that they had to go into long-term therapy because Meghan was so hellish to work with. I mean, these are very damaging allegations, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, they're certainly not flattering. I spoke to somebody that works with Vanity Fair and said, what kind of process goes into a piece like this? Because just the therapy idea alone is incredibly, for their brand, it's horrific. And then there's the rumor that Meghan is shopping a post-divorce book. So I asked somebody that worked at Vanity Fair, how do you get away with this, right? These are some very serious allegations. And they said that months and months of research and sourcing went into this piece, and that legal had to approve every single word, that Vanity Fair and their legal team ensured that there was nothing in here that Harry and Meghan could sue them over. I mean, these two people are so litigious. So I am very confident in the sourcing. I'm very confident in the material. They described it as forensic research. And to me, that's a pretty compelling argument.
Yeah, absolutely. And they tried to kick back against the Hollywood Reporter. This was about 3 months ago, wasn't it, when the Hollywood Reporter accused the Duchess of being tantrum-prone, a tyrant in high heels, reducing men to, and indeed other workers to tears with her style of being a boss. Shouting at people, really upsetting them. Well, they kick back against that and says, this is just people with an agenda. Well, they can't keep kicking back at this stuff. As you quite rightly say, well, look, the Hollywood Reporter, Kinsey, is a very serious publication. It isn't just a tabloid who just chucks these kind of accusations into its pages for sensationalist reasons, and nor for God's sake, is Vanity Fair. Vanity Fair, this was like a 5,000 word article. going into every detail of what's been pretty disastrous for these two, for Harry and Meghan, since they came to America, was it in 2020, something like that. So all in all, a really, really bad week for them, and they can deny this as much as they like, but now it's written in stone, isn't it, that Meghan is pretty much a nightmare to be around if you work for her.
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to reiterate that sources close to the Sussexes are saying that they're dismissing this Vanity Fair article. They're just simply dismissing it. Well, in 2017, Vanity Fair gave Meghan her big break, and she graced the cover of their magazine with the headline, "She's Just Wild About Harry." And we found out in Valentine Lowe's book, Courtiers, that Harry and Meghan drove Vanity Fair crazy trying to get the headline changed on the website, contemplated suing Meghan's brand new PR team that helped orchestrate that cover, and accused them of being, Vanity Fair accused them of being racist for using the line "Wild About Harry," which originated from a 1930-something movie starring Judy Garland, Babes in Arms, where Judy wore blackface. So we know that they are not just dismissing this. When you go as far as to accuse a beautiful, sweet cover like the one Meghan got in 2017, something she would never have been able to have had she not been dating Prince Harry, there's no way she would have scored a Vanity Fair cover had it not been for Prince Harry. To go and accuse them of racism over the cute line on the cover, dishes are flying in Montecito. They're, dismissing this story. What a joke.
Yeah, I mean, they can't keep doing it. I mean, they dismissed the Hollywood Reporter, saying, oh, it was just rumours spread by someone with an agenda. And now they're dismissing the very thorough work of Vanity Fair, 5,000-word, thoroughly well-researched article. They was dismissing that as distressing. Well, you might be distressed by it, but that isn't a denial, is it? They can't keep denying this stuff. I mean, they're in trouble because of this, aren't they?
Yes, I mean, there have been a couple of other reactions to it. A friend who remains in contact with both Prince William and Harry told the Daily Beast the Vanity Fair divorce story seemed very unfair. There was a book, but there wasn't a book. She was planning for a life after divorce, but they are totally in love. What? There was not a shred of evidence. So they do have some people in their corner fighting back for them. But at the same time, it's interesting that they pick and choose very specific topics to react to. How many times can you deny that you're a bully? You really can't. And you've already scouted Us Weekly magazine for your redemption piece after the Hollywood Reporter. Where do you go from here? The National Enquirer? I just don't know where they can go to try to tell. Or People magazine. I mean, it was People that got all the exclusives about Harry and Meghan on the ground after the LA fires. We are smarter than that. We see that there are certain publications that are willing to give them the press they want, not the press they've earned or deserve. And so we don't take those publications seriously. Vanity Fair is a very serious and respected publication, and I trust this piece.
Yeah, and when the Hollywood Reporter article appeared, a big investigation, they interviewed 12 people who'd either had worked for Meghan or were still working for Meghan. There was talk in the air from the Meghan camp that they might sue, and I remember the editor of the Hollywood Reporter went on to Access Hollywood, didn't he, the TV show over there, and said, if you want to sue, be my guest. You come for us then, because we have researched this fully, and you sue, we will win. Guess what? There was no lawsuit forthcoming, and I suspect, don't you, Kinsey, that Vanity Fair won't get a lawsuit either.
Yeah, and don't you remember right after the Hollywood Reporter article, Beast did a follow-up with some of their contacts, aka the Sussex Survivors Club, and they said in September that Meghan had her psycho moments and could be a demon, and that they felt vindicated. They told the Daily Beast over the weekend that they felt vindicated by these new claims. At the time, too, they said that they kind of joked about the fact that Meghan was the classic narcissist, but they could not believe that she had asked contacts to talk to a magazine and, you know, talk about what a great boss she was, what a joke that was, and how it just kind of proved to them that she was the classic narcissist. But when reacting to this Vanity Fair piece, one said, "I feel desperately sorry for the people affected because I have been there, but I also feel vindicated. All those people saying she is the world's greatest boss should be ashamed of themselves. It's obviously very tempting to work for her when you are being wooed and love bombed, but people should be in no doubt she is a nightmare. I would think the atmosphere will be particularly hellish now. Everything is going to," a bad word. It's fecal matter, but they used the other word. But you know, that employee saying everything's going to you know what, it's probably hellish working for Meghan Markle today.
I bet. And a little word about, which was included in the Vanity Fair article, they've made it very clear that Meghan has never said this, there's no confirmation of this, but it was in the article, and this is this extraordinary claim that Meghan has been shopping around publishers asking if they might be interested in a post-divorce memoir written by her. I mean, if that's true, that's something of a bombshell, isn't it?
Yeah, well, and that's my point. That's really the only claim Harry and Meghan's side is responding to say that that isn't true and that that doesn't exist, and pointing out the contradiction where basically the author says somewhere within the article that these two are madly in love, that she's confident that they're madly in love and that they act like they want to rip each other's clothes off when you're with them. But at the end, she then talks about this potential book, this post-marriage book. So Harry and Meghan's team are pushing back on that narrative. Yeah. But with all these other accusations, Beyonce turned down Meghan's podcast, Archetypes wasn't Meghan Markle's idea, Harry would gladly just stay at home and allow Meghan to do all the tough work to bring in the dough. They're not pushing back on any of these other allegations, which are all very damaging.
Indeed, and I like the way you say that Harry and Meghan have denied the reports that she's been shopping around for a post-divorce memoir deal. Well, Harry might not know, if you see what I'm saying.
Yeah, Harry's in the...
Yeah, well, Harry could deny it, but maybe he's being kept in the dark. Think about that, folks. Before we go, let's quickly talk about Harry. And this was another extraordinary revelation in this Vanity Fair article. You and I have laughed before about some of Harry and Meghan's hapless ideas that they had when they signed this ludicrously overpriced $100 million deal with Netflix for films and TV shows. You know, for example, they wanted to do Emily in Paris only with a bloke. You know, I don't think that's a very good idea. Their ideas were ridiculous. Now, we laughed about Harry's idea, which was that he goes around interviewing world leaders. So he suggested that he interviewed the Pope. He suggested that he interviewed Putin. He suggested that he interviewed Donald Trump. And you remember when he put this idea up to Netflix, all the executives go, yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, we like that. We like that. So can you get that ball rolling, Harry? Can you sort of put the feelers out? Can you get Vladimir to come to you, or will you go to him? And he went, oh, no, you'll have to set the interviews up.
Yeah. Okay. Well, first of all, they did say in this article that it was not $100 million, the Netflix deal, but it was a multi-million-dollar deal. That they clarified that. Of course, we expect that it was likely Harry and Meghan's team that released that big number because they were trying to stick it to the British royal family. Additionally, the Spotify thing was, Harry interviewing world leaders was the Spotify project. And they actually talk about this in the piece, saying that Harry was trying to interview people that he considered sociopaths to figure out how they became, and who was going to jump in line to participate in that. You make a great point about the Rolodex, because they say that they expected Meghan Markle, with her pull in Hollywood, to be able to bring in A-listers for her podcast. They say that she dropped the ball. She didn't have those contacts or friends. But I thought you were going to joke about, because this was my favorite, the idea that Harry should review Coco as a podcast. That, I mean, a 40-year-old man.
Chocolate, hot chocolate.
I mean, get a grip.
He wanted to do it. Yeah, you're right. He wanted to do a podcast where he sat down with a mate, a friend, a buddy, and they talked about hot chocolate. Oh, this is good, isn't it? Great idea, Harry. Go back to that sociopath idea. This was the essence of his idea about him interviewing Putin, Trump, and the Pope, people like that. It was this. It was based on this. He said, you know, they've all had traumatic childhoods. I don't know whether that's true or not. I'm pretty certain Donald Trump didn't have a particularly traumatic childhood. But he said they've all had traumatic childhoods, and they all turned out to be sociopaths. But I had a very traumatic childhood. You know, he had a traumatic childhood, by the way, Kinsey, but he doesn't like to talk about it, except 99% of his entire life. Never stops talking about it. He said, but I had a traumatic childhood and I didn't turn out to be a sociopath. So, you know, first of all, well, thank you for that bit of self-diagnosis. We could maybe analyse that. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not true. But can't this man-child realise that if you go to someone like Donald Trump and say, we'd like to interview you about what a sociopath you are, that they're not sort of on balance likely to say yes, are they?
I mean, well, Vanity Fair went to them and said, we'd like to talk to you about how you're grifters, and they said no thanks. Yeah. So this is the result of that as well. Yeah, I mean, I believe when this article says Prince Harry just wants to linger in the charity space and stay at home with the kids, and Meghan Markle is the one that wants to be the superstar and is the one that's obsessed with monetizing the title. I believe that to be true. I think she's going to milk everything, like, you know, and her neighbors were complaining about that, you know, that they said that they've become villains within Montecito, and her neighbors are really disgusted by the way that she is trying to milk the title to make a dime, you know, around this family that she turned her back on.
This is just last point, Kinsey. Great to talk to you as always. This is the essence of their problem going forward. 2025 is going to be a crunch year for them, and I think it's going to be a disastrous year for them. 24 was very bad. Everything started to fall apart. 25, I think it's going to implode. I really do. And here's the essence of the problem. As you just said, she still can't wait to be world famous, to be, you know, a Hollywood superstar, the famous Meghan. She just wants to be more and more famous. He wants to be less and less famous. So they are searching for very different targets, very different aims.
But they know that people don't like her, because in the article it says he's a completely different person when he's with her because people are so mean to her. Right? So they are aware that people don't like her. Take a step back. Allow people to forget. People are angry with them. They do not like them. And we're not going to buy her stupid tea towel that says American Riviera Orchard.
Yeah, and last point, I do believe that the straw that broke the camel's back for the American public and the British public, as you say, Kinsey, quite rightly, everybody was pretty disillusioned with them already. But the grief grifting, the disaster tourism down to the Los Angeles fire scene, walking through other people's houses, looking at their smouldering possessions, the embers, the destruction, for what suspiciously looked like a photo op, for them to look like angels, a good publicity. People were disgusted by that, weren't they?
It reminded us too much of Meghan showing up with a camera crew to Uvalde, Texas, right after there was a shooting at a children's school. They do this far too often. To have your photo taken amongst the worst day of people's lives is utterly revolting. and they have got to change the playbook immediately if they want to be accepted in any way, shape, or form.
And I know, Kinsey, that when you say that, you're speaking for millions of people in Los Angeles, or certainly a vast number of people, a very significant number of people appalled by that grief grifting that the gruesome twosome did when they went down